Today we are putting Pixelmator Pro to the test. This is Apple's Adobe killer. It is meant to be Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, Lightroom, and somehow even Premiere all in one app. And whether that's true or not, we will find out, so make sure you stick to the end because I'm going to test whether Pixelmator can actually compete with all those programs in this video. So let's open it up. When you start it, you can create a new document. I kind of want to show you what this looks like. They've got a ton of templates. Some of them are pretty cool. So again, this Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator, Premiere, all those apps are kind of built in. So for Photoshop, you could see here's like some social media. This is kind of like Canva templates, you know. Here's more print, like flyers. For Lightroom, you can edit photos, color adjustments, all of that. We'll get to that in a second. I'll show you that. For Illustrator, they have some kind of logo places to start here. There's some basic vector capabilities to Pixelmator, and I'll show you that. And then for Premiere, you can see the video tab here. There's a couple of interesting templates, so you can really like color grade footage. If you imagine a Photoshop file, you just put the footage in there, which is kind of weird. So Pixelmator Pro is a one-time purchase of $50 compared to Adobe's high subscription prices, which you pay yearly or monthly for the rest of your life. Apple buying Pixelmator out, I don't expect them to change the pricing. Maybe they might increase the price, but I don't think it's going to go to subscription. A lot of people say it will, but Final Cut is a one-time payment. Logic Pro is a one-time payment. Apple Motion is a one-time payment. I don't see any reason why Pixelmator Pro won't stay a one-time payment. I'm on a free trial, so you can go to Pixelmator and download the 7-day free trial. I've been messing around with this thing for a little over a week now, and I've enjoyed it. I just deleted the free trial and then got it again. And this is a completely unbiased review. In no way, shape, or form, if you decide to buy Pixelmator, will I get any payment from it. But, however, Apple will, because again, Apple bought Pixelmator Pro, and that is the reason why we are checking it out today. So I've got this picture here. It is a raw photo, and I'm gonna drag it into Pixelmator, and I'm gonna edit it. Opening the document, opens up pretty fast. This is what Pixelmator Pro looks like if you haven't seen it before. It's a really great looking software, especially when you compare it to Photoshop, which is kind of clunky. This is Pixelmator and this is Photoshop. I mean, they're kind of the same, but Photoshop, obviously there's just a lot more going on and just things are smaller and kind of harder to see. Pixelmator is a little bit of a simpler UI, which some could say because it's a more simple program, whereas Adobe is more complex because it's a more complex program. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. On the left-hand side, there's layers. I'm gonna hide this for now because we aren't really messing with layers. We're just gonna edit this photo to start out with. On the right-hand side is where we can start doing our photo edits. You can see there's a lot more little buttons down here, and that's when we can start getting into more of the Photoshop, Illustrator stuff. But for now, we're gonna stay in this color adjustments tab. I'm just gonna quickly edit this photo. First thing, there is kind of an auto adjustments, which is this machine learning enhance. I have found that I do not like the machine learning enhance. So that's the after. There's before and after button down here. It didn't really do much at all, but make it blue. I'm gonna undo it, and I'm just gonna go a little crazy. So bump up the shadows. I mean, this should be very familiar to you if you've used Lightroom before, or Camera Raw, or any of those sort of programs. This is what they do, and it's got most of all the features that you could ask for. I think one of the things that I look for a lot that I'm missing here is, first of all, like geometry, so trying to shift the image a little bit, and then also the optics where you can, you know, apply the profile correction. We do have auto straighten here for the crop. Oh, here's some perspective. This is not the same as Lightroom where you can kind of just hit that auto button and it all works magic. We do have levels, which are beautifully designed. You can see there's a button for LUTs, which is pretty interesting for video. And you can see up here we've got some filters and presets, and you can create your own as well, which is pretty cool. What's really interesting about it is this is the same panel that you use on video as you do photo. More on that later. I'm gonna try to quick select this sky here and see if we can fix that. So that seemed to work pretty good. I'm gonna copy it and I'm going to paste it onto a new layer here, and then we're just gonna edit this one so it's non-destructive. Maybe I can just turn it to blue and see if we can bring it back a little bit. Boom. Some of the same keyboard shortcuts, some are different. Overall, I think we did a pretty good job doing some basic edits on a raw photo here. Here's kind of our before and after. I wish it would show me that both, but It's okay. Now another really cool feature of Pixelmator that I really like is this super resolution. What this does is if you have a particularly blurry image, it increases the resolution, which is pretty cool. It's definitely some machine learning technology. I think what I'm most excited about with Apple acquiring Pixelmator, I'm hoping that they integrate some of their Apple Intelligence AI features into it. So that's a pretty sharp image there, this raw photo, so there's not much of the super resolution is going to do to that. But if I were to take in a not so sharp image, like let's say this Pixelmator icon down here, Pixelmator is pretty pixelated in this, and let's apply our super resolution and boom, just like that instantly. Here's the before and here's the after. So you can see how much more effective that is when you have a blurry image. It's pretty substantial. You might be thinking, Grayson, that's great, that can do some basic photo editing, but that is not Lightroom, because the point of Lightroom is the library and the organization of the files. And that is true. And there's another app by Pixelmator called Photomator, which supposedly has more Lightroom organization, library, all that stuff that you're probably looking for. I have not tried that app, but if you're interested in the deep dive into Lightroom, then it might be worth a try. Anywho's, I want to show you now some more of the Photoshop capabilities. So we've got our edited Lightroom photo. We have shapes over here. So here's a shape. We can round our corners, and then we can add some text, Grayson's graphics. We've got all the tools that you might expect. Like we've got color fill here, which is pretty interesting. Let's say we wanted to make this sky purple. You kind of hold and drag until you find it. We've got the erase, we've got the brush, tons of brushes, and there is Pixelmator for iPad and I think iPhone too. Quick selection, free selection, lots of different effects that you can apply, and you can be pretty custom with them, which is fun. And then they have these interesting gradient fills that you can also apply. If I wanted, I could take me, just drag and drop it in here, and I could mask me into a circle. I could drop me over here, so it's kind of like I'm giving a tour at this cathedral type building, fancy architecture building. Yes, there is some Lightroom capabilities. Yes, there's some Photoshop capabilities. It's not quite to the extent of the comprehensive tools that you get with Photoshop and Lightroom, but it's also $50 for one time if you're just kind of editing basic photos, or you're making a flyer, or just basic things. I mean, I think you could work around and pretty much get what you needed out of Pixelmator. There's a lot of different options when you get into the settings in here that you can mess around with. It's certainly not as basic as Canva, which now that I think about it is also a subscription, but it's also certainly not as complex and comprehensive as actually Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom. Regardless, I believe that with Apple acquiring Pixelmator, it will continue to grow into a better software and potentially be a real competitor to Adobe. And that's why I kind of want to show you what it can do right now and what it's capable of for $50. It's also worth noting that you can import Photoshop files into Pixelmator. So I made this Photoshop file here of my dog. I just put a bunch of layers here. I put a bunch of blending effects. This has got a blending mode on it. I just try to be as complicated as possible. And let's see what happens if we drag and drop our PSD into Pixelmator Pro, and boom. It looks pretty good. What you might notice right off the bat is where it says my dog here, that's a pretty huge shadow, and this has a shadow and has an outer glow. I think what it did is it took my outer glow and it made that into a shadow too. Yeah, so you can see here there's 3 shadows going on, but in general, I mean, it looks pretty much the same, and imported the PSD file. Not too bad. So next I want to show you the Illustrator functions of Pixelmator. It is interesting that this is kind of a vector raster in one software. So if we go to the logo section here, we can kind of see this, here's one of their demo examples. I think this button's pretty interesting here. So you can see logo symbols, you can hover over, and it's kind of different options that I guess you could present to a client. Here in the layer section, you can see it's kind of grouped into a folder within a folder, which is pretty interesting. So that's a cool capability I've never really seen before. Supposedly this is a vector and it can be exported as an SVG. They do not have EPS. Now Now again, is this comparable to Adobe Illustrator's crazy capabilities for logo creation? Not really. But we do have the pen tool here. This is like the pen tool that we know and love, where you can, you know, make turns and adjustments and stuff. And then after the fact, you can get in here and then you can kind of like leave it like that, or you could double click, get back in here and keep adjusting the points. You can also import Adobe Illustrator files. This is a logo I did in one of my previous videos a while back, and it's the font that I got sued for. This document has missing fonts. We've imported this Illustrator file here, and then if we double click, you can see all my points here. I've also heard that if you take your Pixelmator file and you put it in Apple Motion, it just smoothly goes in and all the layers are just perfect right away. If you ever put an Illustrator file into After Effects, you know kind of the trauma there of having to like fix all the clipping mask and groups and all these things that just don't convert. So I think it's got a long way to go before it's really a competitor to Illustrator, but the concept is there where in the same program, I have not moved out of a program, and I can create a vector image and I can create a raster image. So Photoshop and Illustrator in one app. We've been waiting our whole lives for this, and here it is. So hopefully it will continue to improve. Let's try out our Premiere capabilities. That should be pretty interesting. So if we go back to this Photoshop file here, I can take this and I can take this video of me using a banana as a mouse and just literally drag and drop it, and boom, now we have a video in our Photoshop. It actually imported underneath these leaves layer, so you can see exactly kind of how this integrates. So it's interesting because you can kind of make like frames around your video. I mean, you can include videos in graphics, which I feel like normally they're just kind of exist as separate things. But on top of that, you can play it, go to your color adjustments, the same tab that you used for the photo editing, and you can adjust the video. So I can bring the shadows up, I can bring the brightness up, I can increase the texture. It plays back immediately, no lag, no problem with it. I can add a LUT if I wanted to, which I'm not going to, but we have the tab for that. We can sharpen the video. It's pretty interesting. We can even do selective color, and we can take our bananas here and make them green. Now they're green bananas. And then immediately again, play back the footage. So it's pretty interesting what you can do with this. I mean, you've got full access to a set of color adjustments, which honestly, it's kind of hard to get out of any video software. So it's really cool to have that in Pixelmator while you're literally working within layers. Pretty wild. You could even edit log footage in here, which is kind of crazy. So honestly, I think that might be one of the most advantageous reasons to use Pixelmator, is if you just wanted to quickly throw a conversion LUT on some log footage and edit that. And then also something that's really cool is you can go in here and again apply super resolution, increasing resolution, and then look at this before and after. You can see all those pixels right here. Boom. And you just applied that to this freaking video and made the video sharper. I think by far my most favorite video Premiere feature of Pixelmator is you can just hit File and export this if you want as an animated GIF, which is so difficult in basically every software to export a GIF. I don't know why making a GIF is so hard, but now you can make all the memes you want with Pixelmator Pro. Overall, I would say Pixelmator kind of falls right here. Pixelmator is not quite as complex as maybe Affinity and Adobe as in terms of features, but it's definitely not as basic as Canva. But the biggest difference is that Pixelmator is 50 bucks. It's $50 for your life, for forever. So it's almost like, why not just get it and see what happens? I'm really optimistic that Apple acquiring Pixelmator is going to turn it into something that really challenges the Adobe suite. I think maybe they'll put some Apple Intelligence AI features into here. I've really enjoyed using it over the last week and a half or so, and I found it very helpful for especially a lot of lightweight tasks, but it's just simple. It starts up quick. It doesn't crash. It has beautiful UI. It's got great little animations that are kind of fun. Photoshop just feels so clunky afterwards. All of those programs feel so clunky. Just, I mean, can you imagine just doing some basic color grading on Pixelmator versus Premiere? It's a big difference. You tell me though, what would it take for you to switch from Adobe to something like Pixelmator? I'm interested to know what features Pixelmator is missing specifically for you, where you're stuck in the Adobe world for now. So leave a comment and please subscribe if this is your first time seeing the channel. My name's Grayson and I post a video about design every single week, and I'll be back next week with another video, and I'll see you then. See ya.